Don't adjust your earballs, people. It's another week of breaking down security. I'm Brian Brake, of course, and as always is Ms. Berlin and Mr. Betcher.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
Actually, I should call it Peg Leg Berlin and
Hey.
Mr. Betcher.
Hey.
Yeah, Ms. Berlin's got a broken wheel. How'd that go this week without breaking any HIPAA violations or anything? How'd that go?
Well, I messed it up more when I was at Millicon.
Yeah?
Because how can you go around a city like that and not walk?
Right.
Like it's pretty much impossible. Like there's so many places that like Ubers just can't get to because the streets are just packed with people.
Right.
But yeah, and then I had an MRI this morning, and so I should know in the next couple of days if I get surgery or not, which will. If you see me on a rascal at one of the conferences in the near future.
Zoom.
I'm actually seriously thinking about just renting one because crutches and canes and everything are just such a giant pain.
Well, I figured you would just have your little, your Egyptian carrying thing and have some dudes from InfoSec,
I had people offer.
Oh, yeah.
But like that, I have trust issues.
They carry you around like Rudy or whatever, on the shoulders, yeah. So, well, I'm sorry you got a busted wheel. So I hope that gets fixed soon.
It takes a while, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Little drama over there in the Mr. Betcher household.
There's no Mr. Berlin.
Yeah, there's no Mr. Berlin. Sorry.
Well, there is.
Yeah.
But let's just not get into that.
Everybody's got problems, I started a new job. Mr. Betcher's got, wildlife in his house and shit. And, there, I'll have to mark that one down. And then, everybody's got a busted wheel. So,
yep.
Wow. All right.
What about you? What's your drama?
I'm getting to the point where I think I probably need to delegate some more stuff off. We delegated the book club about 6 months ago off, well, almost a year off now to Mr. Cybuck. That's going well. The training stuff, I'm actually running the training class at the same time we're recording. So Matt Miller's over here. Let's turn it up and listen a little bit.
It's a super class, and we go down and call it subclass. So you might push all of that shared code into the super class, so then that you don't have to copy and paste that into each one, which then if you modify
fantastic.
one, then you make sure you modify.
Yep, he's doing our reverse engineering class. So I've got two Zooms going on at the same time where he's talking about stuff. It's been going gangbusters. We've got a lot of people on the class. We had 20 people, so that's great. If you're wanting those videos, they'll be available sometime in like the 1st of July or something. But yeah, Matt's doing a great job with that. So, but yeah, I need to probably delegate some more stuff off, and it's getting to where we need to start worrying about what we're going to do for DerbyCon as well. So we got the CTF and we got the auction going on. The auction's not hard, but the CTF is, I got to work with Matt Domko, and we got to have a planning meeting with Matt Domko to talk about what we're going to do for challenges and such. So, that's going to happen.
I had a great idea for last year, but it would have taken a lot more time. So I pushed it off to this year, and now I can't remember what it was.
Oh, son of a bitch.
So I'll think of it. It's story more.
We already have a bunch of great ideas, so the more the merrier.
Maybe some DFear stuff.
I can't wait to spend some money because some of this stuff's going to be great.
Yep. Yeah. We're going to have hopefully some swag at our table there at DerbyCon. Yes. So,
and if it's not at the table, I'll just be carrying it around in my rascal.
Well, I hope by October you're all.
It takes like 6 months.
Oh, God, really?
To heal.
Oh.
After surgery, I guess. I don't know.
Wow. That sucks.
I'm trying not to think about that.
Well, we don't know exactly what's wrong with your knee. You could just have a really severe sprain or something, and you're just needing to, get off of it. And, I mean...
It's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know, but you...
And by October, you'll have been in the rascal so long that you won't even care what other people... Like, get out of my way.
Yeah,
you'll have
I'm putting an air horn on it.
People around. Oh yeah.
There
you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on with this.
Okay, let's actually do some real
talk about security.
Yeah.
Now we're just
So I was reading on my RSS reader. I have a Feedly thing, and I have a bunch of people who do blog posts, and one of them was Mr. Jeremiah Grossman, who the link's in the show notes. He does a lot of stuff. He does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's been a founder of some companies and such. He lives in Hawaii. I hate him already.
What?
I know, he lives in Maui. Yeah. Ugh. So he wrote it
already.
I know, Maui's a great place. So he wrote a blog post called "All These Vulnerabilities Rarely Matter." And he's talking about how there's a misalignment of interest between application security, vulnerability assessment vendors, and customers. And it got me thinking more like along the lines of vulnerability management, because, my job right now, in addition to doing some, remedial management and project management, has been doing a lot of threat modeling. And, I think I've been doing vulnerability management wrong for the last 15 years, if I can be honest. And I hate to admit that to myself, because it seems like then all I've done is for naught. I don't know how you guys do vulnerability management at your shops, but I thought when I first started, it was just enough to run the scan and fix what was found. And then, you move up to this point where you got to triage those vulnerabilities. A high isn't a high because we have X control, surfaces in place that stop that, or compensating controls. And now that I look at, how we're doing vulnerability management and handling vulnerabilities when our people are on engagements, and how we're doing threat modeling to understand those, I realize that there's a lot that I still don't know about vulnerability management that I could have been doing for a while. But it's definitely not a one-man team. I've been doing it myself, and it's vulnerability management is not a one-person event or a one-person thing. So I just thought I wanted to talk a little bit about that this week and get you guys' thoughts on that. So how do you guys handle vulnerability management at your organizations? I know Ms. Berlin's an MSSP, so you must deal with vulnerabilities from a wide range of sources and industries.
Oh yeah, like all of our customers and everything have to deal with that kind of stuff.
Right.
But we do it internally. We have Nessus, just like half of everybody else. But as far as dealing with the vulnerabilities, we don't really place a high, unless they're like RCE and in DMZ type stuff. We don't really place a lot of attention on them.
Right.
Right now, we're doing more purple teaming inside as opposed to just full management.
Yeah, and at my last job, red teaming was a huge deal, because vulnerability management is not just running a Nessus scan or running a Rapid 7 or... Which
I still think you should do.
It's a great thought. But there's a lot of stuff that it misses. So, Mr. Betcher, how do you guys do that at your org?
Well, I don't do it myself. I'm in IR.
Right.
So we interface with the people who do vulnerability management, but I can say that I do throw things to them and elevate the level of elevate the risk on some of the items, because I can see that those vulnerabilities are, someone is attempting to exploit them.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. So I see that on the wire. Yes, it's either being blocked or it's being detected, and maybe they don't get it, but they're attacking a certain, let's say we have a website that's running a particular known application like Apache or whatever, right? So if I see somebody trying to attack that with known vulnerabilities, I will tell the guy, hey, this one's actively being attacked. Please make sure it's updated.
Right.
Raise the priority on this. Or if a particular, like PHP, somebody's looking for PHP across the environment. Okay, first of all, hey, if we have PHP, we need to update it for this particular vulnerability because somebody is acting on that.
Right.
I'll throw that over.
But you're working with vulnerabilities that you know are being actively exploited. A lot of vulnerabilities out there, like, I don't know, a Linux kernel vulnerability. So everybody's like, oh, there's a local privilege escalation in a Linux kernel, and it's like, oh, that's a 7.5, on the CVSS scores, and the longer that I've worked in vulnerability management, the less those numbers mean to me. I just kind of look at the color that's on the, behind the number, because those vulnerabilities obviously are for, that number is designed for a server that's directly exposed to the internet with no controls in front of it. At least that's, the way I've always understood it. Once you start putting controls in, those numbers are supposed to drop dramatically, but a lot of auditors and a lot of compliance people don't think in that term. I mean, they're not, it's for compliance frameworks that are supposed to be fairly mature. They don't really think about
context.
Exactly. Context.
Yeah.
And there are so many vulnerabilities that are missed by those, by vulnerability scanners. They don't look for things like CMS vulnerabilities, plugin vulnerabilities, browser-based vulnerabilities. I mean, when I first started doing it, I was doing dumb scans, no credentials, no nothing. I was just, slamming the vulnerability scanner at the host and hoping for the best. And of course, false positives are, out the wazoo. And, I was like, oh, well, we'll get credential scans. Those are going to be so much better. And they're not. I mean, you still have a ton of false positives, or,
oh yeah,
you have stuff that doesn't make any sense, or God forbid you're using Java in your environment. Boy. And there, the thing that I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that you have to know your environment. You have to, go beyond knowing what controls are in place, but you also have to know what threat model is going on. You have to know how each individual system works. If you have a web application, you need to understand how it connects to each and every system in your environment.
Now, if you don't know your environment, do you think that's a good first step, though, is running a Vuln scan?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Maybe not first, but close to the top.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, if you run a scan and you've got all these findings, you don't know what to do with them. Are they really a 10? Are they really a 7? Are they really a 2? A 2.0 CVE could be the first link in a chain that could get somebody complete RCE in your environment. I mean, I would think definitely having some kind of documentation, data flow diagrams, and each vulnerability on a system is going to be different. So a vulnerability on a web server versus the file server inside your environment is going to open up a different possibility to exploitation depending on what the function of that server is. SMB, if you're finding SMB vulnerabilities in your internal environment, how is a cross-site scripting vulnerability, for instance, on a web server going to allow an attacker to laterally move through your environment and exploit eventually that SMB vulnerability? Those kinds of data flows and network diagrams, that's why the top 20 security control systems, mention documentation, asset management, all those things, because that's
one of the last things I think people do is asset management and data flow and everything.
Right.
Like I've known out of all the customers that I've worked with, maybe 2.
Right.
And what percentages?
1-2%.
Yeah. But so. I mean, this is my thing. These are the technical positions I think that a lot of blue teamers miss, because everybody's like, oh, red team is so awesome and it's so technical and everything. You really have to get into the nuts and bolts of your environment and look in the dark, crevicey looking areas of your environment to understand how everything works. I mean, there are a reason that the blue team people are SMEs in their environment, and they should be the wardens of their environment, because you should have to know how everything communicates, how everything works. When you're doing a network scan using Nmap or something, and you find a port on your network and you don't know what the hell 5353 is, and it's on this one server, you should have to go, or should be required to go and find out what that service is, if that's an actual service and not, somebody's, Metasploit, shell or interpreter shell. Go and find out from the SME, go and find out from the system owner, the data owner, what that is, how it connects to X, which systems does it interact with, which systems interact with it, and then, map that accordingly and update those on a semi-regular basis.
This actually points back really well to a tweet I saw earlier. What's today? Oh, yeah, earlier today. So it says, take a moment and jump into your perimeter IPS, filter traffic originating from the internal IP range, and narrow the scope to just the production server segments.
Right.
Now filter on destination port 80. What results do you see? Why are they unsecured? Why is it coming from prod?
Do you have a link to that tweet?
Yeah, that was Linux Dork. I can send it to you.
Well, put it in the show notes if you can. We'll just add it to
I can
it.
do that.
So, I mean, this is, every I hate to use the term snowflake because it has such a negative connotation to a lot of folks, but every organization is a snowflake. Every organization is going to do things differently. Their infrastructure is going to be different. The tools they use is different. The software they use is going to be different. It's a bespoke environment every place you go. So your vulnerability management program, your threat models are all going to be different. Every time you walk into a new place, it's like you've traveled to a brand new world, and you need to explore that world. Because if you don't, you can't just go, well, at my old company, we did X, Y, and Z. Well, you may not do X, Y, and Z here at your new job for a reason. So
I think the theme that you're saying, Brian, is you have to have experience. I mean, I think you made one of my points, which was the longer you've been doing this sort of thing, the less these numbers mean to you.
Right.
And so I think being a good vulnerability manager means you have to make a judgment based on your expertise and your knowledge of the environment. And that's where the knowledgeable, experienced security person comes into play. Yeah. Vulnerability management might not seem that sexy, but it's very important to get the right person in that task. Otherwise, it'll make your whole security team look foolish when you're sitting there crying wolf every day on vulnerabilities that don't matter. Jeremiah Grossman in his article makes a lot of valid points. I don't know if he's read the book How to Measure Anything.
Yeah,
but I think that book really fits in the vulnerability management space perfectly.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, I suggest you do. It was a great book for the book club.
Yep. They're still running it.
I think applies wholeheartedly here.
Yep.
And he goes into how the risk matrix is kind of crappy.
Yep.
Right? Because it gives you this red light, yellow light, green light type matrix, and tries to prioritize things for you without any of the context of, well, is it really worth it to patch this thing?
Yep.
Some of my points are, though, you have to take things into a broader context. For example, there may be some vulnerabilities that don't really matter or that matter much less than others. But let's say you have something that you can patch that may get rid of 100 vulnerabilities, right?
Right.
In the same system.
Yep.
So it'll tackle ones that really don't matter.
Yep.
Ones that may matter in the future, don't matter now, but maybe 3 years from now, as we've seen, hackers get better and better over time. So things like MD5 were awesome back then, and now they can just cut through it like butter. Yep. So context really, really matters. And sometimes one patch will get a crap ton of these vulns that he's talking about. Maybe you have 1,000 vulnerabilities, but you can knock out 500 of them by patching a few systems.
Right. And I'm going to add on to your point here, you may not need to patch the systems. It may be something you don't need in the first place. If you're used to pushing out an image that has, a number of packages on them, and you haven't revisited those pre-made images or those gold images, and you find, we've got, X windows installed on boxes that don't need X windows. You're opening yourself up to hundreds of additional vulnerabilities that may not necessarily need to be on there. So simplifying your environment can often, help out with some of those things.
Yeah. Do we actually need that server running X, Y, and Z?
Right.
We need to patch FileZilla. Well, hang on.
Good Lord.
Why don't we just uninstall it? Do we actually need it?
Right.
Or FTPzilla. Remember the guy that downloaded FTPzilla? Yeah, that was not good.
Yeah, and if you've got a bunch of Linux servers that are doing one or more things, the Windows, if you're in a Windows environment nowadays and you're running Windows 10, that subsystem for Linux is really, really good. I mean, I have not started up my Kali box or my pen tester framework box in over a month on my VM. I have the Linux subsystem on my Windows 10 box, and it does me everything that I need it to do. So I mean, there's additional options there if you're looking to reduce any kind of footprint or assets that you might have. So Mr. Grossman also mentioned static application testing and dynamic application security testing. Now, to be fair, he used to work for a company called White Hat Security. He started some other companies as well. So, there's obviously a bent here about, application security testing because that was his bag. It's kind of hit or miss for me. I've used 2 or 3 of these organizations, and I haven't found a lot of value in them. I don't know if it's because I didn't have the bandwidth to actually, ride herd over every automated scan that these things did, but it seemed like I got less over time. Like the first couple months, it was great, but over time, the vulnerabilities either were non-existent or the communication just wasn't there. So,
okay. Well, let's talk about static analysis.
Okay.
It's really good if you can get somebody looking at static analysis reports who has a background in development.
Right.
Right. So they can have those conversations with the developers. They can pick the ones that are the heavy hitters, and they can let the developers know that that you do take application security seriously, and that you should be thinking about things like input validation.
Right.
Okay. So that takes the fuzzing out of the question. If you do have proper input validation, you don't have to worry about, as Jeremiah puts it, vulnerabilities that will never be exploited.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you're not going to have those applications that are vulnerable to fuzzing if you do proper input validation, is my point. He does mention that there are vulnerabilities that will never be exploited. You really can't prove that.
Right.
Okay. Prove they're not exploitable.
Yep.
You can't prove a negative. So I would be careful if I was him saying that there are vulnerabilities that are just going to exist and you don't have to patch them because nobody's going to exploit them anyway.
Right.
That's sticking your head out there.
Well, conversely, though, if you are using a vulnerability scanner, and we've thrown around Nessus and Rapid7 and all those other ones, some of them do tell you if those vulnerabilities, depending on how old the vulnerability is, if there's things like if they're Metasploit or if they're in Core Canvas or Cobalt Strike or something. I don't know if this is still the case, but the fact that they're in those kinds of tools always kind of increases
HD Moore's Law
urgency to fix those, even if they are lower, because they always bump up another category for me. So if you're using a low, medium, high, things that are medium go to high. High would go to somewhat critical for me, but if they've been around for 5 years and there's no known exploits, so you can't find anything on exploit DB, I'm kind of leery about, putting a big fat, oh no, we need to fix this immediately if it's a high, because there may not be any exploit code out there, but you really have to read and research what those vulnerabilities are to find out the level of effort needed, because if it's the same thing. If it's a level of effort for us to patch it, what's the level of effort for the hacker to exploit it? And if it's if it takes a ton of work to even get a working exploit for it, or to even chain all those together to get your escalation or your privileges, you have to take that into account when you're doing your vulnerability management. So
you could take that account if there's a lot of pushback from getting it patched.
Right.
You can say, well, it'll cost so much in time and effort. It'll waste resources, and it's really, really difficult to exploit that we know of.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. It may be really, really easy for someone to exploit it. We just don't know that sort of chain of vulnerabilities. It might be easy.
Right.
And I would also be careful when you're saying, oh, it's not internet facing, it's on the inside. So it's okay if I have 7 versions behind on my antivirus portal,
right?
That I'm running on the inside. Think of the zero trust model. That's why that model exists,
right?
Because you shouldn't trust anything, right? Yep. How easy is it for an attacker to get credentials?
Not hard.
Or to get a zombie inside your environment. All that has to happen is somebody needs to click the wrong thing.
Yep.
Or double click the wrong attachment. Yep. And all of a sudden you've got an attacker on the inside who notices that, hey, this version of your antivirus portal is from 2006.
Yep.
There's 70 vulnerabilities here, right?
Miss Berlin's never seen anything like that.
Nope.
And
then also, you don't want to take that as like the easy excuse, like, oh, this is, this will never be exploited. It's going to cost too much money to patch. You actually have to make that decision informed.
Right. Yeah. And
that's where experience.
Like, no, Jeremiah Grossman said that none of this shit matters. I'm not going to do any of this anymore. I don't think that's the point.
Well, that's where the threat modeling and everything come in, because you can say, well, one, you need a privileged account. We don't have any privileged accounts on this box, hopefully. We have 7 firewalls that you've got to go through, that you've got to hack swordfish-like to be able to get through. You get it. As long as you can make your case for that, that's great. And I know a lot of you are like, well, but I have HIPAA, I have PCI. There's nothing that says that. There's nothing that doesn't say you can't go, well, the level of effort to fix this is, right now is far too much, and we're going to accept that risk. Or, you can make the argument that we have controls in place. Hopefully you can make the argument that you have controls in place that help mitigate these things. That's why we have things like plan of action and milestones, where you can put these things down and start a plan to mitigate them, not now, but within a certain amount of time. That's why there are, they have that route for your findings. So
I'll give you one example of what we're talking about here. Remember Rowhammer?
Oh yeah.
When it came out, what was that, a year ago?
More than a year, but yeah.
More than a year and 6 months, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. People said, man, this is difficult. You have to have the right, place that you do this. And basically Rowhammer is where you have a program that just thrashes a memory address, and it changes a different memory address and gives you privesc or whatever you need.
Right.
Whatever you're attacking. And that was a very difficult attack. It only worked in a very, very small percentage of cases. It was very controlled by the attackers, and it looked like these guys were just, this is pretty far out there, man. Right. This can never happen in a real
theoretical
environment. All of a sudden, 6 months, a year later, it came out that, wow, this is really a serious attack. And now, very recently, it's remotely exploitable.
Yep.
Now, just came out.
Yep, I heard about that. It requires really fast internet connection, though, to do so. from what I saw. But yeah, it's very much the case.
And so you're saying, but it takes this, but it takes that. Just wait a few months, and those buts will go away.
Right.
That's my point. These things are low priority today, but in a few months they're going to be medium, and then a few months more they're going to be high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have those one-offs where your boss has heard about the brand new named vulnerability, and all this is going to go out the window. They're going to force you to do it anyway.
Well, then you have executive behind you to get the thing patched, right? Because they heard about it on their.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we're trying to do is, if you've got a lot to do on your plate and you've got the brand newest vulnerability scan for the month coming in and, or the latest Java vulnerability critical patch updates come through and you got 50 other vulnerabilities that come out, you don't always have time to get ready for patching those things, especially in a critical environment. So, yeah, it's a rough deal when you're dealing with that stuff. So having a plan, if you can't patch immediately, is often better than just throwing the switch and trying to patch it, because it can cause a lot of issues in the long run. So
yeah, and there's a risk to patching too.
Right.
So take that into account. Move a little bit slower, but if it's a critical, make sure that it's thoroughly tested.
Right. Okay. So, Ms. Berlin, do you have any other last thoughts on this?
No.
Okay. Mr. Betcher, you have anything? Have you seen any malware this week?
Well, in the shower, there was a scorpion malware.
You whooped its ass too. You just, nice.
Took care of that.
Very good. Mr. Betcher, killer of the scorpions. So, yes. Very nice.
I saw a centipede in my basement the other day and screamed like a little girl.
Oh, was it? Okay, so was it poison? Are they poisonous?
No, they're house centipedes. They're just very large and fast, and they're the one thing in the world that creeps me out like crazy.
It's all the legs.
Probably shouldn't have said that on the podcast.
It's all the freaking legs, man. Yeah.
Nope, can't handle it.
Nope. Mm-mm. Yeah, I haven't seen one. I guess
I will run. I couldn't run.
Like centipede or millipede or both?
Centipede. Look up house centipede. Those things can get 8 inches long.
Ugh.
Note to self: bring the recon centipede. Wow.
I will murder you.
Centipedes on a plane?
Nope.
Ooh.
Nope.
Okay, that's okay because I might drive.
Hello, you two.
Oh. My bad.
There's something about centipedes that's playing
stupid
jazz music.
Damn. I was trying to find a picture and I clicked visit because, freaking Google and they're, oh no, we can't, link directly to images.
Sorry. I just Googled it and I just saw a picture and I can't
Can't contain yourself.
I can't look at it.
Oh, you got a little PTSD going on there? Sorry.
I was going to send you a picture and they just really just.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should take a little at a time.
I have a little insect carrier too.
You are a sick, demented.
Oh, these are on my screen and I'm going to close this and just send you the link.
That'd be a good screensaver. Just crawling all over your screen.
Something wrong with you, sir. Something wrong with you.
Interesting.
It's a lot wrong with you. Oh, yeah. That was one I looked up earlier.
I'll put it in the show notes for anybody that really wants to look at some centipedes.
I got pea shivers right there. So,
lost my mouse.
All right.
Are we going to talk about the other thing too? Or we run out of time?
No, I think we're ran out of time. So, we talk about Kanban and stuff later. So, Ms. Berlin, I know you just got back from NolaCon. Are you going to be anywhere else in the very near future when you're not hobbling?
Yes.
You said June. You've got some travel coming up.
June, I'm going to 4 different places. The next thing I'm doing, though, is kind of cool. It's called Hackers Helping Hackers, which I have to do at 5 a.m. next Monday because it's in Australia.
Oh, my God.
It's some kind of video blog post, video post thing. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. What's that over there? Was that a centipede?
That was the pizza that I had gotten earlier that I couldn't eat because it was downstairs and I had to hobble.
Right.
I texted Michael, my oldest, and he was playing games, so he didn't pay attention. Middle of the podcast, he brings up this pizza box and a 2-liter of root beer and sits it on the floor, like
out of arm's reach,
me, so I can smell it, but I can't eat it.
That is, man.
Like, he thought he was being helpful by bringing me food because I haven't eaten, but like he just tortured me more.
He put it at arm's length because he knew that.
I sent him a message like, "Come get this pizza off my floor right now."
Oh my God! All right, well let's finish the show so you can go and eat. So, Ms. Berlin, if people wanted to talk to you about hackers helping other hackers, or anything else that you're going to be doing in the month of June, how would they get a hold of you and talk to you about that?
Twitter Slack's best at InfoSyster, INFOSYSTIR.
Right on. Mr. Betcher, same for you. If they wanted to talk about the latest malware trends or, whatever all is going on.
log-md.com. Check it out.
All right.
That's my website. And we also might start a GoFundMe for Amanda's stair lift.
Oh, right. Right.
Yeah.
And my rascal.
Your rascal too.
We'll get you
upstairs in my house.
We'll get you an exoskeleton stuff for your, you can walk around.
That would also be helpful.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So, Ms. Berlin mentioned the Slack. It's very active Slack. We have 1,214 people signed up. We have probably around 450 active accounts.
I can't keep up.
I can't keep up anymore either since I got my job. I log in and there's like dozens of people. Thankfully, we have a social contract that, and we have people who are not complete D-bags, and it's a very nice environment, a very happy environment. People tend to enjoy one another. You can always join us if you'd like. You can DM our Twitter at BrakeSec, or you can email us at bds.podcast@gmail.com. and join us. So we have people from all over the world. So we just got some people from the Middle East on there. We got some folks in Asia. We mentioned our book club earlier. We have a U.S. and an EU book club. The European Union one meets every other week, and we have some people in Germany and Finland and the UK who are on that one. We have a Patreon, so thank you for all of the people that are giving us money to help support the show. It helps for audio upgrades. It pays for our Zooms. It, pays for the whatever time that we're doing for processing videos from the classes and such, or the audio from the show here. So it's very much appreciated. Also for hosting fees and such as well. So we're on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio app. I just told people about TuneIn Radio app the other day. We're on Spotify, Stitcher. What are you going to be doing this month, Mr. Betcher, for Breaking Down Incident Response? Last month was a phenomenal show with Miss Hacks for Pancakes.
I think we're going to talk about SIEM and what to log and how, the value you get out of it.
Right on.
So that's in the works.
Well, maybe the vulnerability management stuff can kind of dovetail into that, maybe. Yeah,
maybe. And how, basically putting the right things in your SIEM and alerting. So you don't need a SIEM for your SIEM and all that stuff.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Well, I am going to go and finish up the class with Mr. Miller, and he's still teaching right now, I think. So this has been it for Break It. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Brian Brake, BryanBrake. And I already mentioned the show's Twitter as well. So if you have any questions, please hit us up and ask. So this is it for Breaking Down Security. Have a great week. Be nice to one another, and we will talk to you again very soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.